On November 21st, 2016, Connecticut Governor Dan Malloy went down to the 777 Main Street building in Hartford for the announcement that the building has become LEED Platinum certified. I'll briefly touch on what LEED certification is later in this video, but first I want to quickly show an example of Dan Malloy describing what is happening in downtown Hartford, and this applies to most towns and cities across the state. This is the concept of smart growth, or transit-oriented development, or sustainable development. It actually goes by various names, but is essentially the same concept. Local and state governments, along with the federal government, are using our tax money to drive development in the direction of tall apartment buildings built along public transportation and away from single-family homes that require the use of a private motor vehicle. Essentially, they want the majority of people to live in densely populated city centers with public transportation as the main form of mobility. You can view my other presentations to get a better understanding of this program, but this is how the governor describes what they've been doing.
What we've tried to do in your city, Mayor, is to make sure that we're building much of that housing in the downtown, as was just mentioned. We want a Connecticut where people don't have to have a car if they don't want to have a car, and a Connecticut that is open to other options on how one uses a car or obtains a car for that usage.
What Malloy and the central planners of the system leave out when discussing these policies is how exactly they are able to shift development patterns. It's pretty simple. They give our tax money in the form of various subsidies to developers. In the case of the 777 Main Street building that Malloy was speaking at, the developer Becker & Becker received funding through multiple sources, much of it public funding. According to the Hartford Courant, the various forms of public funding break down as follows: $37 million loan from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, $10.2 million loan, and a $7.5 million equity investment from the Capital Region Development Authority, a $3.9 million loan from the Connecticut Housing Department, $15 million in federal historic rehabilitation and energy tax credits, $5 million in state historic rehabilitation tax credits. Now, that is how they encourage their preferred form of development. Now, to prevent development in an area, the opposite technique is used. Instead of offering tax incentives, there is tax disincentives. For example, if the state wanted to discourage private motor vehicle ownership, which it does, an added tax such as a mileage tax or road tolls would be a viable option. Actually, the state has done the research in this area and has estimated that in one area of the state, a tax of 20 cents per mile would reduce private motor vehicle usage by 6% and increase public transportation usage by more than 70%. I can explain further how this concept works, but I have made several videos on the topic and encourage interested readers to click the links at the end of this video. Now, to quickly touch on LEED certification. Knowing what I know about the green movement, before I even looked into LEED, I figured it would be just another scam to get taxpayer money, likely funded by some Rockefeller organization, and I was pretty much dead on. LEED, or the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is a certification program developed by the U.S. Green Building Council. As a side note, the U.S. Green Building Council sounds like it's a federal agency, but it's not. It's a private organization that has received over $250,000 from the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. To get a better understanding of the Rockefeller influence in the climate change scam, and in Connecticut specifically, watch my videos on the Rockefeller connection. Quickly getting back to LEED, once a building is LEED certified, many states, including Connecticut, will reward tax credits to the building owner or developer. Indeed, the developer for the 777 Main Street building in Hartford is a recipient of a CT Green building tax credit. This LEED program deserves its own comprehensive analysis, but for the sake of brevity, we'll save that for a later date. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel, and watch the related videos for more information.